What's going on? You are tapped in with the Questions Hip Hop Podcast. My name is Sean Kantrowitz. Every week on the podcast, I bring you deep discussions, conversations, interviews, debates, thought exercises, and general musings about hip hop culture with rap's greatest participants, practitioners, and biggest fans. Now, we've been taking a little bit of a break in the last quarter of 2025 due to a whole lot of reasons. And we're going to get into all of that. But this episode, what we're doing right here is to do a recap of everything that we touched on in 2025, highlight some episodes that you might have missed if you have not been tuning in every week, and also to let you know about all the things that you may not know about if you are not a member of the Questions Hip Hop Patreon. The Patreon is an exclusive way to not only support this podcast, but to get a gang of unreleased and exclusive material that you can't get anywhere else. We're going to get into all of that. So I'm going to kick things off first by saying that while the Questions has been dormant in this last quarter of 2025, as I mentioned, we are going to be launching things back up in 2026 with new episodes, more on the YouTube channel, more on the various podcast platforms. If you are somebody who listens to podcasts and doesn't watch, which that used to be more of the exception. And now I feel like most people are watching podcasts. I have my own feelings about that, but that's besides the point. I'm willing to meet people with where they are and where they want to receive things. And of course, 2026 is also going to bring more exclusive content to the Patreon, which I'm going to give a little glimpse as to what you might have missed if you're not already a member. So let's go back in the time machine, kick things off at the beginning of 2025. The first new episode of the podcast in 2025 was an interview with Marcus J. Moore, esteemed critic and author whose De La Soul book, High and Rising, was not just a love letter to his favorite group and that group's legacy and impact on hip hop, but also stirred some rather unexpected and, dare I say, uncomfortable conversations and debates within the hip hop community and amongst Marcus and De La Soul as a group itself, because the group sort of took issue with the existence of this book. And Marcus and I spoke about that when he was on the podcast.
If they would have read the book, they would have seen that it was an act of love. It was an act of, I don't know. I feel like I'm at this place in my life and my career now where I don't have to do anything I don't want to do. Okay, so I didn't have to write the book. I wanted to write the book because I felt that they needed to be respected and revered in the literary marketplace, because you can read a million books on Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Bruce Springsteen, the Beatles. Why not De La? So, but anyway, I'm rambling. But I felt the way. But as soon as I felt the way, I realized indirectly that my name is super strong out here in the streets, because I didn't have to say anything publicly. Quite literally, everybody, like my colleagues, fans of De La, people who I've never met, were jumping out there on my behalf in a real way. Like, was like, yo, you guys are really wrong for this. Marcus is not the dude that's trying to take from your legacy or take money out of your pocket or anything like that. So um that initial reaction was definitely one of disappointment, but then also just as quickly encouragement, seeing how all those years of good work that I've done over the years has been holding up, and it held up in a real way. And quite frankly, I feel like De La found out the hard way that I'm just not some dude. And that's what I was trying to tell them. That's what I was trying to tell Maceo behind the scenes. And I was disappointed in the fact that he and I had a conversation. We had a private conversation through DMs.
Post
And
their post, like after they released that statement or before?
nah, before.
So
It was before.
before we get into that, had you reached out or attempted to include the members of the group in the book as you were writing it?
I had been trying to reach De La for 4 years.
Hmm.
4 years. I have screenshots to prove it, that I was sending email upon email. I was reaching out through mutual friends, through people who we know, going back to April of 2020. Before the Kendrick book came out, I was trying to get in contact with those people. They couldn't be bothered. They didn't respond to anything. So that whole notion of like them acting like they were blindsided by the book was them being completely dishonest, because that's not the case at all. And what I was about to say is, like, I also saw, on Maceo's post when he was like, oh yeah, he told a friend of mine publicly, like, oh yeah, we had a conversation. Marcus and I had a conversation and it didn't go well. That's not true at all. We had a conversation privately and we ended on a good note. I put him in contact with the people who could have got them some bread or could have gotten their cosign or something. I don't know if he reached out to them, but to sit there and act like I didn't do what I was supposed to do, like I wasn't on the up and up, it was not true at all. And I didn't jump out there publicly, even though I was tempted to, but I didn't need to, because quite frankly, the work stood up. It stood up and it's still standing up, and they're judging a book by its cover.
2025 also saw many installments in the Making Illmatic series. Now, for those who may not be aware, Making Illmatic is a concept that was created by my sometimes co-pilot on the show, Midas the Beast, where we take an album and attempt to distill it down to our 10 favorite songs. And then we determine, does doing so help the album? Does it hurt it? Or does it have no impact on the album at all? So one of the first episodes that we did this year in the Making Illmatic format was with esteemed hip-hop historian, writer, and I would say just somebody who, if you are up on the questions and you do not know who Dart Adams is, you should go take some time to read up and, learn up on who Dart Adams is. He is somebody who I've known on the internet for quite a while. He's been on the show before, and we tapped Dart to join us in dissecting and pulling apart and really doing a deep dive examination into Rock Marciano's album, Marcberg.
The definitive modern classic rap album of the 10s going forward is without a doubt Marcberg. A new era begins after Marcberg. And I'd say like it continues with like Cause next
Grief
album.
Grief Pedigree.
Grief Pedigree.
Right.
I say that those two are like the linchpins, and this is how the new wave of classic independent rap is going to sound. This is the gold and platinum standard. And also, we're going to teach y'all how to get money going forward, because we're going to create the blueprint and how to market and promote these albums, even if it's just through word of mouth.
It's kind of crazy, even in revisiting this and kind of trying to, prep myself for putting it through this kind of thought exercise. It was crazy for me to revisit it and be like, trying to remember what it was like in a pre-Marcberg like climate. Because the influence of the record and the influence of what he has done since, it has so spilled into all of like just the like pretty much if you're looking at like above the line and below the line of like very commercial hip hop and anything that's like underground, independent, not mainstream, it has this record's fingerprints all over it, over it. And it was crazy to just sort of even think about that, it just to try to imagine what it was like. It's had such a crazy impact. You know what I mean?
Then the other part of it, 15 tracks.
Yeah.
Got to get this down to 10.
Right.
Yo, it's going to be so fucking difficult, bro. So look, right? Rock Marcy. I got a couple different stories about this record, but I'm going to start with the concept of, Sean said just now, like, this set the stage for like what independent hip hop was going to do after this for a little while, right? But sorry about that. But what's really interesting about that is this album's still a diamond in the rough, and nobody's done it like this album since this. So it's like there's a lot of albums that took the blueprint of this record, but niggas can't make this album. No, they keep, and they try by the thousands, and they can't do it. You know, like the charm of this record is hidden behind a couple of things. One, it's that Rock is a God tier lyricist. That's one. It's that Rock is a competent producer, but what is competent about him as a producer is his ear for what's gonna sound dope.
Taste, aesthetic. Like it's not necessarily the craziest flips, but it's like, wow. What a great move. What a great choice.
So from an MC standpoint, Rock does the thing that I always thought about, which was, damn, bro, like this is my favorite beat on the album. Why don't insert artist here just make a whole album with this sound, right? But dudes wasn't doing that. They would have one joint that was that sound, and it was like Rock's like, nah, but I just like this shit. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna do that shit for the whole record, right? Yeah. And like he was doing that. His subject matter, the pimp shit, all this shit. Like I was telling a friend of mine recently, a lot of dudes took the Rock Marcy shit and was like, yeah, I'm gonna make albums like Marcberg. The thing is, they don't rap as good as Rock. So like, yeah, you could do the things that you can do from Rock, which is find the kind of samples, have the subject matter, but you can't rap like that guy, bro. Like, so it's not, and then even Rock doesn't have another album like this. Yeah, like, I mean, it stands out in his catalog.
I mean, when you think about this album and how it like laid a blueprint forward for this is how you want to do it, but everybody can't do it, but do it how you do it. When I listen to this album, I listen to other albums along the lines, like I'm like, okay, you figure it out. This is what I'm gonna do. When I listen to like Haitian Body Odor by like Mac Harmon, HBO, right? I listen to Fly God.
Fly
I'm
God,
like,
yeah.
okay, this is our attempt at something similar, but we can't reach that. We know we can't, but this is our version of it. And the thing is that Rock, the beauty of what Rock does is that he hasn't chased this album again.
Nah,
he hasn't tried to
at all.
He hasn't tried to make Off the Wall or Thriller.
Nah.
He knows better.
Lest anyone assume that the Making Illmatic format only applies to older albums, we did an episode on, I think, the most recent album that we'd ever done before with Zilla Rocca from Call Out Culture and Wrecking Crew, also a former guest on the Questions Hip Hop podcast. But Midas and I did a Making Illmatic episode with Zilla on Redman's Muddy Waters 2, which had come out just a few months earlier. It came out at the tail end of 2024 and is a really interesting album, very long album. And so it was quite an adventure trying to see what our 10 favorite tracks on this album were. The song is called Don't Wanna See Me Rich.
Hey, yo, that's my favorite song on the album, by the way.
That Grant Green fucking Tribe shit. Woo!
Yo, it's my favorite song on the album. When I saw the video and when I heard the single, I was like, oh, this is what we doing? All right.
I'm in.
I was really excited off of this. This is vintage Redman creativity, in my opinion. You know, Redman's ill on those type of samples anyway. Like that's kind of always been a
jazz
thing.
Shit.
Yeah, just it's like the fusion of jazz funk energy where he kind of gets real crazy. But I just love everything about the song, including just the point of the song, the whatever. You know, the haters don't want to see me rich, and then being able to have 2-3 verses about that kind of topic, but keeping it like it's dope. You know what I mean? And the hook is fire. You know what I'm saying? And the way he organized the loop is fire. The way he organized the beat is fire. Like, it's just crazy. And my only annoyance with it is that it takes so long to hit this song from when the album starts. Like,
track 12.
Too good to be this buried in the album.
I agree.
Like, I need it earlier. Like,
track
this should have been a early set off type energy to get you like, okay, here we go. So, big keep for me.
Yeah. It's a keep for me too. I mean, flipping a Tribe sample or putting a Tribe sample in is like shooting fish in a barrel for me. You know, like I'm clearly gonna love it. A lot of people don't remember that Redman is on a Tribe album. He's on the Love Movement, so you know it's a cool.
God, yeah, he is. Oof.
Yeah, connection there. But I love it. You know, I will say that it does, especially because it's on a very prominently, you know, associated sample. This again could easily fall into like mixtape promo joint, but I just love it. So my vote is to keep it. And I agree with everything Mike has said about like the sticking to the songs theme. It's really good.
Yeah, strong keep. Obviously the best song thus far for sure. And same thing, like the album just could have been like this and Ignorant. Take those 90s samples we love, refresh them, chop them into bits, rearrange it. Like that's your wheelhouse. We're all going to be on board with it. I wish that was more of a theme. So yeah, I want more of that type shit. I'm all in.
2025 also marked the debut of a new format on the show. We've had so many formats, from the traditional questions hip hop trivia, which is what the show started as, to the Making Illmatics, to some other formats that we're going to get into. But it also birthed this year a new format, our draft episodes. And we did a draft episode of the year 1995 with Trackstar the DJ from Run the Jewels and Philaflava. And we really had a ball picking our favorite songs and artists and beats, and really just doing a full exploration on the year 1995.
Best producer. I gave this some thought, and my heart says I should be going with DJ Premier. And I'll give you some reasons why, but then I'm going to tell you what I feel after that. So I think we can agree Premier's peak was probably 93, 94, 95. 95, he did the group home album, Living Proof. I mean, that speaks for itself, right? Yeah. He also had that signature ding sound, like the dude from Breaking Bad. You know what I'm talking about? Yep. So you heard that in MCs Act Like They Don't Know. You heard that in Return of the Brooklyn Dodgers, which I think was one of the greatest tracks of 95. There was a lot of things that he did in 95 that I thought stood out. It was as one of his better years. That said, going back to the stats, it's very hard to not award RZA the best producer because of the 3 albums that he produced that year. Not to mention, the Method Man remix to All I Need, but it's hard to gloss over Only Built for Cuban Links, Liquid Swords, and Return to the 36 Chambers. And I think that is the reason why RZA is the best producer that year. Your take.
I was a little shocked because I thought you were picking Premier there, and I was like, man, there was only one obvious pick for me out of all of these categories, and that was like, who is going to slide in and take RZA first for best producer? Yep. Because you want to talk about, like, you know, the 5-year plan. Like, this is the thick of the 5-year plan at this point, and the RZA's run in 95 was fucking incredible. It was fucking incredible. Like, It's insane to look at it. And, you know, it's funny. I went to this RZA film screening earlier last year, and I also went to see RZA do his classical album as well. I had like a very concentrated month last winter where I was doing a lot of RZA things. Did
Dave Chappelle go with you?
No, Dave Chappelle was not there. That would have been Trackstar. Trackstar is that's his guy.
The way. All right.
I'm more of a Neil Brennan guy myself, but no, it was interesting. You know, RZA did a lot of press as well last year. I heard him on Rick Rubin's podcast. I heard him on a few things where he just is talking about this era and how he just was so focused, so locked in, wasn't having fun. Like what you know, like he was in the lab, like not socializing, but creating hip hop history to the point that it would be egregious to. It's only fitting that we're starting this off with talking and mentioning and giving RZA his props because, like 95 was indisputably his year. I think we're all a little pissed that you took the most obvious pick. But
yeah, I mean, I think he's got a case for best year of any producer ever in 95. Yeah. Like, he'd probably be my number one. I'd have to go through the stats and see if there's someone I'm missing, but
yeah.
The big thing about why I get so like RZA angry when I see things is because
RZA angry.
Being RZA.
Right? Yeah. Talk about 95, but like, the motherfucker did 5 perfect albums in a row. Like, like it's unbelievable. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we talking about? And of
I
those
mean,
records, he does every,
like
Yes.
Frisbee.
yeah, you know what I mean? Of those records, he does almost every song on all of those albums. You know what I'm saying? It's insanity when you really break it down. But I think the real jewel of it, especially in 95, is that these 3 albums come out in 95 and they all have production that matches the rapper.
Yes.
It's they don't sound like the same album 3 times. You know what I'm saying? It don't sound like just random hip hop songs. You know what I'm saying? Like the Dirty album sounds like Old Dirty Bastard's personality. The Genius album, like it's crazy how well he was able to match music to artists for 3 albums worth in 1 year. That shit is unfuckwittable in my opinion. It's amazing.
Yeah, I just got so excited because I know Trackstar is like Mr. Rap fan and he's already like angled his camera a little bit. I thought you were grabbing like some RZA scroll or like some rare thing, or were you? Oh my god, yeah, of course.
I mean, I have the brand called Rap Fan, but I don't think there's any reason to think I'm any bigger of a rap fan than the 3 of you fellas, to be perfectly fair.
And I'm just going to set the standard.
I just copyrighted it, you know?
Well, I'm just saying that you've set a standard now. I expect for every proper noun that we acknowledge in this podcast, you will have a piece of memorabilia that you hold up. I'm sure
I might have to run to the other part of the garage, but I could probably do it, yeah.
2025 was also the year that we lost a legend in music, Roy Ayers, a musician who had such a huge impact in his own right, and also somebody whose fingerprints are all over hip hop, from not only the songs that sampled him to the influence that he had on a lot of the musicians and producers of hip hop. Roy Ayers is just synonymous with great music. And so it was a really special moment to connect with Steve Wonder, co-founder of The Questions and extraordinary DJ and just such a great source of music knowledge. And Steve and I did a whole episode dedicated to Roy Ayers and talking about his impact on hip hop's music and our favorite beats and all sorts of things.
Well, got to start with Sunshine to me. Like I said, like Brand Nubian was the introduction, but like you said, it's been used so many times, but I think I took some notes and I have, there's 4 or 5 that really stood out to me. Now, Brand Nubian was the first one. Another one is E-Rule Listen Up, which is a replay of it, which is an incredible production. If you listen to that track, I'm not sure, I forgot the producer's name, but he did such work on that. It's way more up tempo than the original sample. Drum programming is just knocking. Pretty sure he's playing the bass live. It's like, I love when artists and producers take a sample but then make it theirs. And on E-Rule Listen Up, that was one of my favorite uses. Like, I was just like, oh my god, they just flipped this. Another
I think
one
it was
for
King
me,
Born Allah.
Born Allah,
yeah.
That 12-inch is incredible. Synopsis is on the B side, but that was a really dope. That's a straight LA underground. You know that one if you were really in tune to the LA underground scene.
Was that the record that when we were at the Beat Junkies Institute of Sound, when we were doing the Name That tune and you were playing like just
I played the snare.
And Mona Lisa instantly knew it from the snare.
Yep.
That was a classic moment.
It's that recognizable. Another one for me is pretty cutty, but it's Trends of Culture, Valley of the Skins, which is another replay, but they replayed the keys, and I think they used some of the original sample, but like also just done really well. And I love that song, that 12-inch too. Like, I was a big Trends of Culture guy. I love their version of Sunshine. I mean, A Valley of the Skins. And another one is Mary J. Blige, My Life, which is another replay. The band's playing it, but her version of it just like breathed new life into it. And everyone just, did that sample so much justice and that song so much justice. Like, it's, if there a perfect song exists, it might be Everybody Loves the Sunshine, you know? And
Yeah.
you know, like, all those people did a great job with it. And, you know, so many people have sampled it, but I got to start there as, you know, Roy Ayers, classic.
Dart Adams made a return to the podcast within months, because at the end of the Marcberg episode that we did for Making Illmatic with Dart, we said at the very end of it, you know what? We need to do, this was great, but we actually need to do another Making Illmatic with Dart. And we took Cannibal Ox's debut album, The Cold Vein, and put it under the Making Illmatic microscope to try to determine what our 10 favorite songs on the album were. And man, woof, this was an interesting one for sure. If you put LP, who is again at his core hip hop, but bringing in a lot of other, like, you know, industrial punk rock things, and you pair him with basically black voices, whether it's Killer Mike or if it is Cannibal Ox, you get something that I think is a little bit more palatable, that you're like, okay, this has that. Because on Fantastic Damage, a lot of it is just L rocking solo, and that can be a little bit too close to the fringes of some listeners to be like, you know.
I love you, Sean, because that's what I was saying, but I didn't want to say it. But you held me down. You know what I'm saying? That's the difference is black people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love, but
I wanted to know that this was a safe space for you to talk about white people. Yeah.
You see, you saw how I tried to dance around that. Sean was like, man,
I personally, like, I love Fantastic Damage. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, like, Deep Space 9mm, Da Nang, The Thing, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, these songs are just like when Thanos was like pulling from the moon and throwing it at you. You know, like, to me, that's like the audio version of that. But I get what you mean, because again, one of the beautiful things about being me is that I know that my mind and where I listen and how I absorb music and art is different from the average or different people. So I'm like always fascinated, and I'm like, I know I love this, but everybody ain't gonna like this shit. Now imagine being that same person who reviews art and music for a living.
Mm-hmm.
That is a mind fucking half, isn't it?
That is a tricky situation. Yeah, we're all DJs in our lives, whether or not it's in a professional setting. And yeah, if it's 2001, and if I knew Midas back then, and I have if both the records were out, Fantastic Damage and Cold Vein, and knowing that I'm going to try to put Midas on, I'm going to be like, do I play him Ox Out the Cage, or do I play him Deep Space 9mm?
See, exactly.
I gotta play the Can Ox shit, because it's already going to be abrasive, but maybe there's some thread lines there that like, he's going to like it. And then once you're open to that, then I could be like, all right, now check out some of this weirder shit, weirder finger quotes. You know what I mean?
To me, this is one of the things that you learn growing up in the late 90s into the early zeros, when you're trying, and when someone was like, hey, could you recommend me some anime? And I'm like, all right, first, I'm not stupid. I'm not falling for the banana in the tailpipe. What do you like, first of all? Right. Then we go from there. Then we pull you in. I don't play you fucking Legend of the Overfiend to start. You know, that's a mistake a lot of people make doing that type of thing. Like, I'm not going to throw you into the deep end of the pool. Let's get you here where you can wade.
Yeah.
And then get you over here where you can maybe, you know, dog paddle. And then once you can handle that, then maybe I'll let you swim. You don't start at the deep end of the pool.
This is probably the only song on the album. I mean, okay, we'll talk about B-Boy Alpha when we get there, but this is probably the only song on the album that would have an outside chance to live on like a doo-wop tape. You know?
Yeah, I know where you were going already. Because I had this conversation for
like a clue tape, maybe. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I've had this conversation for almost 25 years, so I knew where you were going.
I would contend that there is one that I think has an even greater chance, but I'll acknowledge it when we get to it.
We'll get that.
One of the other formats that we do on the questions is Can't Knock the Shuffle. This is a format where I take an artist's entire catalog, I put it into an algorithmic playlist put it on shuffle, and then allow the algorithm to determine random songs that the artist then has to tell me the stories behind. And so I did this episode at FYI, the startup tech company founded by will.i.am. We filmed this at the FYI campus. I also am a part of the FYI team. And we hosted Mathematics from Wu-Tang Clan, who was not only promoting the Black Samson album that he and Wu-Tang dropped this year, but also this was done on the cusp of Wu-Tang heading off on their final US tour. It was really dope sitting with Mathematics and talking about his extensive catalog, both for his own albums, the Wu-Tang albums, and all of the other artists that he's produced for over the years.
So Mighty Healthy is a little different because I used substitution straight. I didn't chop the drums. I looped the drums.
Talking about Melvin Bliss, synthetic substitution, classic bridge, just for the viewers. We want to, reach out across the aisle here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Yep. So I took that and I looped it. Like normally I might chop them drums up, but I looped it straight. And then the chop was in the sample.
Right.
Then added a live bass player for the boom, boom, because the sample wasn't cutting through enough.
Right. So to add that element.
Yeah. Which is the first time I actually used a live musician on one of my tracks.
On this song?
On this song, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, like, this year, this was 98? Yeah, 98.
Yeah.
So Wu-Tang is at its apex in terms of, like, just cultural relevance, respect, commercial success, and everything. Most things, I would say, up to that point, had been under the architecture of the RZA. Like, the RZA was the guiding force. How nervous are the other producers in the camp, or how inspired are the other producers in the camp at that time, where it's like, okay, there's a Wu-Tang blueprint, and now we're going to add some other elements. Like, what is that like? Because I'm thinking, like, I'd be freaking out.
Well, nah. See, what it was, because we all had a close bond, right?
Sure.
And when I first started producing, because I had just started producing in 95. Like,
wow.
When I seen RZA make Ice Cream, that made me want to become a producer.
Got it.
And that's when I went and caught my ASR 10.
Yeah.
Right? So when I used to come to the studio, when I first started making beats, True Master's in the studio. RZA's in the studio. Fourth Disciples in the studio.
Yeah.
Deck is in the studio. And they all got beats. And their beats is heat.
Yeah.
So it was competition. It was always competition just to make a track, just to make an album. It was always competition. And, in the beginning, I got my ass whipped. I ain't going to front. Just come to the studio and hearing the heat they playing, I'm like, wait, hold on. But it made me go back and work harder.
Were they giving you, like, was amongst the group, because nobody was outside, everybody was like internal circle, but like, would they share, like, hey, this is how I did this, like, just so you know, like, you were getting tips and stuff like that?
Yeah. RZA was good for that. Even like when I first, like I said, when he first made Ice Cream and I was there and I seen the transition, and when I heard it, the finished complete song, like the complete music before MCs, when he first did it, it pulled me right in the room. Because he was in the pre-production room. I went in there, I was like, yo, wait, this the same beat. How you do this?
Right.
And he's like, yo, ASR 10. And he started breaking it down. Jack was always a good person to break things down for you. True Master, he'll be like, yo, God, you need to do this, do that, such and such. Fourth will break certain things down to me, but we used to build, like, because Fourth used something different. Fourth used the Kurzweil.
Okay.
He didn't use the ASR 10.
Got it.
But we still talk music.
Sure, because some of the principles could still translate, even if it wasn't the same tool.
Yeah. It's not the same weapon, but, it basically does the same thing, but this is weapon of choice.
Yeah.
So, but he couldn't be like, yo, go to the filters in here and take it to the 2 HP or the...
Right.
Yeah, he couldn't do that. Like,
damn. So did you feel like you were, like, a member of the Avengers at that point? Like, that you guys because it wasn't even like, oh, we got something to prove. It's like Wu-Tang is forever at this point. This is 97. It was already declared Wu-Tang is forever. Biggest group. Like, I just imagine you must have felt so inspired in that time.
Yeah, you do. And you stick out your chest. You know what I mean? You had definitely. And because even though it was competition within us, right? It was friendly competition. Same way it was friendly competition with the MCs in the group.
Yeah.
It was also competition with other people. So, when I listen to like, I hear something like "Who Shot You?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
By Biggie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, hold on. He murdered that.
Right.
Yeah. Or I hear a Premier beat.
Right.
It's like, yo, what the hell?
Right. Premier is definitely the guy who it's always what the hell, because it's just like who hears that record and decides that's what I'm gonna do and this is what I'm gonna take it to. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. Or you listen to Dre, you listen to everything that was from DJ Quick. Like I listen to other producers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, I always had to give them their props because, especially once I became a producer, because now I know what it is to make a beat. Well, now I know what it is to, so now when I go back to Breaking Atoms, I'm listening to a Large Professor on that album.
Classic.
I'm like, yo, incredible.
Right.
You listen to like Chronic or the Chronic 2001 or Doggy Style. You listen to the first 5 joints that RZA basically did by himself.
Right. It's crazy because music is one of those things that in so many other fields, as you get deeper into it, in other fields, you might lose some of the magic because you're like, okay, I know how it's done. This doesn't impress me. The deeper you get into music, it almost enhances your appreciation of how other people are doing it because you now understand. And like, I always say music is like this, eternal mountain that no one will ever actually get to the top of. So it's just like you're climbing it and you're experiencing like, oh man, you did this, you took that route. Oh, that's crazy.
Quincy Jones got up there.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Quincy.
Shout out to Quincy Jones.
Isaac Hayes.
Yes.
Like it's some of them greats. Yeah. That definitely did. And that goes back to compilations because you wouldn't consider Quincy Jones' albums a compilation.
Never.
It was his album. It was his vision that he put together. But he didn't sing.
Right. Yeah, he just was the person that was orchestrating it.
Yeah, he wasn't a singer. I'm not a rapper. I don't
Never?
see.
Ever?
Well, yeah. I mean, I could rhyme.
But yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
you picked your path eventually. You were like,
yeah. It's like I remember like even I wrote and I wouldn't say this before, but I've seen Deck actually say it. So since Deck said, I wrote a verse for Deck before. He's in the studio and I was in there writing and he was like, what you got? And he's like, yo, you mind if I get this? I was like, nah, go ahead. I ain't going to use it.
It was a Triumph verse, wasn't it?
No, I wish it was. I wish that was.
This would break the internet if that was what just happened.
No. But Deck is a swordsman and he don't need no Ghostfighter.
No.
So, but he seen, he heard something I was writing and he loved it. He took it and, he shaped it and molded it to
he deckified it.
Yeah, he deckified it. Definitely. But yeah, I did rhyme at one time, but it's not me.
2025 also had a major milestone because it marked the 200th episode of the Questions Hip Hop podcast, a podcast that I basically started in 2020 during the pandemic on Instagram Live. That was originally what the seeds of this podcast were. We were just trying to figure out what the heck was going on in the world. So it was really dope to go through and highlight some of the best moments of the 5 years that the podcast had existed. All right, pick number 2 is episode number 31 with the legendary DJ, producer, A&R, and hip-hop personality, DJ Mr. C, rest in peace. This was, about 30 episodes later from our last pick, and it was we were finding a groove. And getting C was a really, really big get. His history with so many classic hip hop records, from Master Ace to Notorious B.I.G., Big Daddy Kane, it was crazy. It was out of control. This actually came on the heels of us doing an episode with Master Ace. Master Ace and Mr. C, of course, very close friends, family. After doing the episode with Master Ace, Mr. C was watching, and he messaged me and said, "Hey, I'd love to do this. If you're down, I'm down." And we wound up texting, and Mr. C is like a legend to me. You know the name if you are a hip hop head, particularly if you were tapped into East Coast radio, New York radio, and the classic records that he's involved in. And we wound up doing, actually, not only did we do an episode with Mr. C, but we made it an all Biggie themed episode, because we wound up publishing it around the time of, I want to say, Biggie's birthday. And it was great. Crazy stories. And Mr. C also, we extended it. Okay, because here's the thing. In the early days of Instagram, you were cut off at an hour. So if your live stream went over 60 minutes, it would just cut it off. And so that happened because we were talking so much. But C hopped back on and then proceeded to show so many cool parts of his home, his collectible collection.
This is one of my possessions. I'll show you something else I got. Hold on.
If you're just joining us, we're doing show and tell with Mr. C here.
How many of y'all don't got this? This is the all together cereal. This is all of the Kellogg cereals mixed into one.
What? Where does one get this?
Kellogg's was selling it as a limited edition. So you got Kellogg's Corn Flakes, Kellogg's Fruit Loops, Kellogg's Frosted Flakes, Frosted Mini Wheats, Rice Krispies, and Raisin Bran, all mixed into one. It's all one cereal.
Did you ever eat it? Like, do you have another one?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I told Master Ace I was gonna buy this. He was like, if you ever eat it, I'm gonna kill you. The sugar level on here is probably 1,000.
I'm sensing a theme here. I'm sensing hip hop memorabilia.
I got different kind of trinkets in here. I have.
If it's another box of cereal, we got to talk about why you have so much cereal. Oh, Master Ace, shout out. Was that the 45 box set?
Yeah. So and this is a 45 box set, and this is actually a puzzle. This is actually a Master Ace Incorporated sitting on chrome puzzle. Never opened.
That Delicious put that out, I believe. I have I'm looking. I have the Bizarre Ride to the Far Side. Hold on, now I'm gonna try to hang with C here, but there's no way.
Oh, hey, we showing off trinkets tonight. DJ,
I've never opened this, but this is the Bizarre Ride to the Far Side. It's a box set of 7 inches, and it's a music box and a puzzle as well, or a poster and a puzzle.
And then I got this. This just came out last year. This is the Ready to Die 25th anniversary edition.
Woo!
And this is all of Biggie, the whole Ready to Die on 45.
2025, in many respects, was the year of Nas. Through his Mass Appeal campaign, the Legend Has It campaign, a series that saw seminal releases from so many, legacy artists in hip hop, Nas was the mastermind behind this. Nas was featured on every single album. So definitely Nas's year. We also did a Making Illmatic episode about Nas and his second album, It Was Written. Not our first time that we've done a Nas album, but we did Nas's second album, It Was Written, and we were joined by MC Jamil Honesty. And this was a really, we're still getting comments about this one because we were talking about Nas's growth, his development as an artist, and of course, the classic debate, how does It Was Written stack up to the album Illmatic?
I'm a big Nas fan. I'm a Nas stan. Like, Michael Jackson and Nas kind of share two things in my mind. It's like, I'm a big fan of both, but I only go back to like 2 albums with them, right? So it's Thriller and Off the Wall with Mike, and Nas is Illmatic and It Was Written. But I tend to like the ones that are not as popular as the other one. So I like Off the Wall better than Thriller. And I like It Was Written better than Illmatic. That's just me.
So is It Was Written the off the wall of the Mike catalog? Is that the argument you're making?
Yes. Yeah. Pretty much. pretty much.
Jamil was just picturing all the comments and making sure, like, he was envisioning the comment section. Let me be really careful about what I say here.
Yeah. Run that back real quick, because I don't know. Like, so basically, what I'm saying is, like, a lot of people would maybe prefer Thriller, right? But I feel like Off the Wall was like, you know, a little. I just prefer it. It's a little bit more soulful, you know, and that's just me. But you know, if you say either one of them, if you say is the best, I'm not arguing with that. Like, Illmatic is incredible. It's incredible. I mean, hell, this is the podcast is named after that album. Not doubting that. And and for Illmatic, but not to take up too much time. But with Illmatic, so back then I was broke. I ain't have no money. I ain't have a job. I was like 15, right? My mother wasn't buying no damn rap album for me. So I would have to listen to whoever had the album at the time. But if we was out on the block or outside or whatever, they might be playing the records, or I might see it on TV or whatever the case may be. So that album I really didn't get to really get into until I got a job, right? So we talking about maybe 96, 97 when I got my first job. I was able to go cop the CD and really see what all the hype was about. And it was definitely worth, you know what I'm saying, everything that they was talking about. But you know, where it was written, I was able to buy that CD, take it in, you know what I mean, and all of that. So yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's kind of two schools of thoughts, and I guess we should address that early on here. You know, Nas is obviously such a respected and dissected artist in the canon of hip hop. Mm-hmm. And I feel like one of the great dividers, or the great, like, what kind of a person, what kind of a listener are you a Nas Illmatic or Nas It Was Written in terms of what your preference is? I'll just, you know, following Jamil's perspective there, I'll follow up on that. I'm definitely a Illmatic is better. For me, It Was Written is not, it's not even close in my eyes. Like, Illmatic is head and shoulders above. I think there's a reason why this section of the podcast is called Making Illmatic and not Making It Was Written. I know that part of that is because of the length, you know, obviously we're playing into
Don't kick me out.
No. It's fine. And there's going to be people on both sides of this. You know, I think for me, so Illmatic, what I loved about it was that it is such an extension of the soil that it grew from, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you have MC Search, you have Large Professor, you have Pete Rock, you have you know, Q-Tip, DJ Premier. They are all sort of the architects of shaping the sound. And in so many ways, even though it's not like, you know, Nas wasn't like an extension of Native Tongues. He wasn't an extension of, you know, Main Source, even though he made his premiere there. But he definitely felt like he was taking a page from that book, even just if we're talking about production, right? And so for myself, and I think for a lot of listeners like myself, what was jarring about It Was Written was that this was such a sharp turn. You know, aside from the LES and the DJ Premier production, this is definitely a pivot in the sound, which in hindsight, looking back and listening to this record, it's not quite as drastic and jarring as it felt at the time. But for a lot of people, this felt like very much a deviation from the Illmatic sound. He was pursuing something lyrically that was a bit of a different motif. There was definitely like undertones of mafioso, a little bit more, you know, the Escobar identity. And production-wise, you know, Trackmasters are doing the bulk of this album, which feels like the furthest you could get from like a Large Professor or a Pete Rock at that time. So I was definitely a little bit harder on this album. I think as time has gone by, in the rear view, this record is clearly, it doesn't ruffle my feathers as much as it did back in the 90s. I also think that on an MCing standpoint, and I think Midas will be able to speak to this more, this is a different Nas in so many ways, you know? And I think for people who, I recognize I'm on a call right now with two MCs, and so like that might be the anchor point that you guys focus on more, where it's like, well, the rapping is clearly more advanced, perhaps in some ways, than it was on Illmatic. But I'm a beats guy. I listen to the beats first. The beats matter. And in many respects, it had me feeling a little like, this does not deliver the Nas ingredients that I wanted. So it'll be interesting to see. And Midas, I think I kind of know where you lay on the spectrum on this, but what's your sort of take on the second Nas record?
Well, the first thing I'll say is this album, this might be the most commented on controversial album that we do, because even I see it on Twitter all the time. There's constant "it was written Illmatic" beef in the X streets. It's just
right.
It's because to me, I feel like it's a generational conversation. If you're a certain age, it's Illmatic. If you're a certain age, is it was written. Honestly, that's what I see more often than anything. Is just whenever people talk about Illmatic, there's a lot of where I was when I heard it attached to it, and like what was going on when I first heard it, and there wasn't nothing like this, and it was a lot of that. It's a lot more conversation about that than the album itself. I think a lot of time, it's
Absolutely.
just like it's a lot of like like grandma tale.
The mania behind it. Yeah,
But when I was thinking about my relationship with it was written, first of all, I think 95, 96 Nas is the best rapping I've ever heard in my life from anybody ever. I don't think anyone's ever rapped better than he did in 95, 96. So you would assume that most of this record was written in 95 to be released in 96, right? You got the verses, the verse on the Mobb Deep album. You got the verse on the Cuban Links album. You know what I'm saying? A little splatter here, a little splatter there. There was a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor of this album. But to this day, I don't think I've ever heard better rapping than the rapping that happens from this guy in 95. I think it's the peak of a rapper rapping to me. So with that being said, that's that from the mic standpoint, from the lyrical standpoint. And what's funny about that is I'm not and I've explained this a lot before, but I'm not a huge content guy from a rap standpoint. Like I like rapping. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't care that before he was talking about the struggle, but now I don't really care what he was talking about. I just care that he's rapping great and it's good audibly for me to listen to. So there's that. From a production standpoint, while I think the highs of Illmatic are way higher than the highs of It Was Written, I'd contest that It Was Written probably gets unfairly criticized production-wise, because there's a lot of beats on this album that are really dope. So we'll get into it. I mean, yeah, we don't have Pete Rock anymore. We don't have Large Professor. We don't have Q-Tip, but this is Trackmaster's playing RZA and Havoc. You know what I'm saying? And cleaning it up. I heard an interview once from somebody from the Hitmen. I forget who, but the Hitmen were saying whoever that was saying like all we were doing was trying to make RZA beats, but make them pretty and clean. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like there's a cleanliness to this album that maybe a lot of people don't want to touch too tough. But at the same time, I mean, Trackmasters made better beats than the beats they made on this album since then. Like this is probably the best Trackmaster beats they ever made. You know what I'm saying? So there's some really good stuff right here. So I'm excited because there is fat on this record for sure. But I'm excited to talk about it because I feel like there is a 10-track album in here that while not still, because I'm all that being said, I don't think it's a better album than Illmatic, but I do think there's a 10-track album in here where you could at least have a better conversation about the comparison between the two.
We had a return to the draft format with a 2005 draft. We did this one with Justin Hunt, shout out to the company man, and the last MJ. This was a fun conversation because a lot of times when people do deep dives on years in hip hop, they tend to go for the 90s. The 90s was such a rich and sort of just great time to draw from. But 2005 is an interesting year to dig apart and to sort of pick highlights from. And we had some very interesting conversations about 2005 in this episode. All right, so my pick for best beat in 2005 is Mike Jones Still Tipping.
Wow.
Like, guys, I did the research. I combed through everything.
That's
Like,
the beat.
I really revisit everything. That is a crazy beat, and
That's the beat.
and it's a really fucking simple beat too. But as a producer, the greatest thing that we need to learn to undo in our minds is doing too much on tracks. And sometimes it's just about the right elements and the minimalism, because unless you're making, RJD2 records or, Flying Lotus records, you don't need to do too much. You need to give space for the vocalists. I would want to hear anybody rapping on the Still Tipping beat, and they will sound dope. That is my pick for best beat.
Great pick.
That is,
Great pick.
when you say I would never guess, that is the understatement of the century. Of the cinch.
I
Jeez
didn't expect
Louise.
you to go into the mainstream bucket at all.
I had to flip
Still
it up.
tipping. Mike
Let's flip it
Jones.
up.
Who?
Yeah. No, the producer of that song is what's his name?
Celie Williams.
Okay, yes. So here's the thing about Still Tipping. Still Tipping, that's the version that we hear that most people know, the one you're talking about,
Yeah.
is the remix.
Right.
Yeah, the original version is Mike Jones, Slim Thug, Chameleonaire, and they might be one more. It might be 50-50 Twin. But that version, and it's faster. And so that's the version where Slim Thug actually says, "Still tipping on fofos, rapped in." Yeah, so that wasn't the hook. That was his verse.
Right.
And so when they got the I think when Salim got the vocals of it and they wanted to redo it, he slowed everything down and kept that and made that the hook. So the first version doesn't really sound like that, really. It's faster, but the second version is better and amazing.
I don't really got nothing on it. Only thing that I got is doing my research. For this episode, I happened upon Bow Wow, Fresh as I'm Is.
Oh,
and it features Mike Jones, which I didn't remember. And then I watched the whole video. I was doing the video research. I watched the whole video, and Mike Jones because I forgot all about Mike Jones' whole existence in life.
Who?
Mike Jones, had a 16 on there. 8 bars of the 16 were repeated.
That was his thing.
That's his style.
And I was like, so you took half the real estate to say the same thing.
By the way,
like,
you're making a really risky move here, taking what could have been one of our picks, that we were going to pick the Mike Jones verse on the Bow Wow song as our verse of the year. But I'll allow it.
Well, it would have been the greatest 8 bars you ever heard in your life, because the other 8 just ran it back, But damn, Still tipping. Wow, you got me on that one.
Justin, what's your pick for best beat?
Kanye West, Gold Digger.
Woo!
I just think the flip was crazy. Initially I thought it was Ray Charles. I didn't realize it was Jamie Foxx in the beginning. So it was just a reinterpretation, rather. Was it interpolation? Whatever.
Interpolation? Yeah.
And I don't care where you were, where I was in the world at that point in time. If I was outside and that beat came on, it was electric in whatever room, whatever whip, wherever I was at that point in time. And I also thought, too, for similar reasons with that project, it was another example of Kanye taking sort of the soul sample, sped up soul sample reputation he had at that point in time to the next level. You know what I mean? And then for that, the song itself, like the first time I heard that song was on Def Poetry Jam. And so like the last verse of that song is on Def Poetry Jam. And so what it turned into, I didn't think that verse alone was going to turn into a #1 song. You know what I'm saying? And then, but the beat is really what elevates it. So it's something crazy. I love that beat.
Okay. I'm feeling good because y'all didn't pick my beat. And I guarantee when I pull this shit out, it's all hatred from everybody.
Oh, Lord.
Let's go.
All right. There's not a question on what the best beat is of 2005. The best beat
Okay.
of 2005 was made by a young producer out of Cincinnati named High Tech called Runnin' off of the Games album. Running is the beat of 2005. Get the whole fuck out of here with anything else. Running is so crazy
I
to
love
this
that song.
day.
I love that song.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Got to live for today because tomorrow ain't
bruh.
promised to me.
Yo, so listen. There's beats in your life that, like, when you hit a beat for the first time, you're like, I remember hearing Rock Cocaine Flow, right? And being like, what the fuck is this? You know what I'm saying? I remember hearing there was a joint on or Phone Tap. I remember hearing Phone Tap for the first time and being like, this shit is crazy. Running blew me all the and High Tech would do that a lot because the Blast did that. Like, I remember hearing the Blast and being like, the fuck is this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But Running is the documentary, which we didn't really talk about, but the documentary has a lot of phenomenal beats on it.
Facts.
And to me, Running is the best beat on the album that has 100 phenomenal beats on it. You know what I'm saying? And to me, Running is the best beat on the album. Like, obviously, I'm not going to say by far, but it's the beat that sticks out immediately when you say, like, yo, the documentary. Like,
he got a lot of them on there, though.
He do.
A lot of them.
Running is so crazy. So
I
I'm
had
taking
another
Running.
song. I had another song on the documentary that was like neck and neck, but I won't say it. But yeah, there are great beats on the record.
So I'm taking Running. High Tech, I got your back, bruh. I know what you did in 05. I was there. I'm taking Running.
Okay. I'm not mad at that. Yayo's verse, by the way, was very good on there too.
Yayo had an ill verse on there. Shocking.
He did. He did.
Is it the greatest Yayo verse of all time?
It's possibly. It might be. It might be. Because you thought it was like, Yayo was like the wild card and you thought he was going to be playing around, but he was actually, if I get knocked, I'm running. Like, it was like, okay, Yayo.
It's the best Yayo verse of all time. I'll sign that paperwork.
I'm with you. I'll sign it with you. I'll co-sign you.
Yeah.
All right. So for me, the best beat of 2005, and I love Running, but there's a beat that could come on right after that, and you would forget what Running even sounds like.
Oh, man.
Kanye West. Bum, 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 bum. It's that crack music, nigga. That real crack music.
Crack music. Yeah.
That beat, the beat, that is like, I don't even know what he was thinking when he made that. The song is flawless. Shout out to Game's on the hook. But to me, crack music, if I was in the studio and he played that, I would be like, I have to be on that. Like he's got again an album with nothing but
bangers on the whole shit.
Incredible beats. But yeah, crack music was just the production on it, the percussion, the percussion on it, and to not necessarily have the continual snare throughout it, but it's still, the tempo is still there the whole time. It's amazing. And it really is like the epitome of crack music because it sounds like crack. Because it's so addictive to listen to that song over and over.
When you say you don't know what he was thinking, he definitely was thinking, man, in 20 years, I'm going to completely go crazy and flame out. And and I need nitrous immediately. This is what he was thinking back in 05.
Yeah, let me put something in their souls and their spirits that no matter how much they hate me, they can't erase
this.
There you go.
I'm in your DNA. I'm in your fucking DNA now.
Thank you.
Ben Pedroche, the founder of the Grown Up Rap Instagram and Twitter handles, is also an author, and he published in 2025 a book called Independent as Fuck. It's a very comprehensive look at the independent hip hop scene. And I welcomed Ben to the show to talk about not just his book, but also what it's like being a hip hop internet pundit and being the guy who, quite honestly, I used as a resource for a lot of things when I was running the early days of the Questions account. This guy seems to know when every album ever was released.
Yeah, so I started it's over 10 years ago now. I'm just
Wow.
checking myself now. When I'm literally checking now. So my Twitter page started in 2014. Yeah, so it's like 11 years ago.
Wow.
And basically, it's all a hobby. I don't monetize any of the content on Twitter or Instagram at all. It's a hobby. It's what I do for fun, right? It was coming at a time. So my first child was born in 2015. So it was possibly around the time my wife was pregnant with our first child. And I was focusing on family, and I kind of felt like I was losing sort of like something that was personal to me. So, I thought, I've never stopped listening to hip hop, but I did go for a few years before I started the blog where I was a little bit more kind of stuck in the classic stuff and not as in touch with the modern hip hop, the modern stuff that's coming out. So I wanted to get back into that. But yeah, I think part of it was I kind of wanted something that was separate to family and kids and that was my own hobby. So I kind of like really sort of dived back into that whole kind of scene and really kind of got myself back into it. But yeah, it's just a hobby. It's just something to pass the time. I spend too much time on it. My wife's always telling me that I'm on Twitter and Instagram way too much, and she's right. But yeah, it was just kind of like a passion project, really, just kind of something just for the hell of it. And you know what? The history tweets, they get a really big response. And it's only stuff that is my kind of hip hop. I don't do like, Puff Daddy was born. Well, that's a bad example, but you know what I mean? It's the kind of hip hop that I like. I'll only do the history things on, and it's the hip hop that I know that my followers like as well. But the response that it gets really kind of makes it worth the while as well, even though it's just a hobby. But like to hear it stimulates conversation, and people say, "Oh, I hadn't heard this album for years. Thanks for reminding me. Oh, I've never heard this album. Thanks. I've just listened to it now. It's amazing." So I love that feedback. But yeah, it's ultimately just kind of a hobby. So.
Yeah. So, okay, that brings me to my second question. How the hell are you still continuing to do this? Because from my personal perspective, it is such a consuming thing that I'm just curious how you parse out your day, because there's so much hip hop history at this point. And in full disclosure, I eventually just decided, like, man, I don't know that I want to continue to dedicating my pages just to that. And so now the questions has largely become just about the episodes and the events that we're doing. And if there are certain things that are happening in real time, we will. But I'm asking more just out of awe and respect, because essentially I'm saluting you, because I just felt so overwhelmed by trying to hang with the grown-up raps and on this day in hip hop, pages. I just was like, man, this is a lot. So I'm just curious, are you scheduling a lot of things? Are you sort of, do you have a routine, like part of your day that, okay, I'm going to carve out this hour, I'm going to do my posts, write them and post them. Tell me about this process.
Yeah, no, I actually don't know how I do it, to be honest. It's all by hand every day. So basically, so I have 2 kids, I have a full-time job, so I don't have a lot of spare time, right? So the book, if we go back to the book for a second, I used to write the book in the night times when the kids were in bed and wife was in bed or whatever. So that was tiring as it is, and then get up the next day and do a full day's work. In terms of the content stuff, so I've been building this database over the last like 10 years of these history dates. So I have this kind of like Excel sheet that I use, but I do it by hand every day. And it's, there is a schedule. So basically it's kind of weird. Like I usually do the history, prepare the rap history tweets, and I do it on IG as well on the way home from the day job on the train on the ride home. I do that. And then I post them kind of like just when the kids have gone to bed. And you know what's funny? Sometimes if there's a day when I'm busy or like I'm sick or whatever, and I haven't done it at the usual time, some people actually tweet me and say, where's today's history tweet? Like, which is like flattering, but like, yeah, I fit it in when I can, basically. And yes, there are times when I spend too much time on my phone, but no, I don't schedule stuff in advance. I post new music as well on a Friday. I just posted those like about 30 minutes ago. I don't know how I do it, to be honest. it's hard. It's a grind. But like I say, you know, no one's asking me to do it. It's purely for fun. I could stop at any time, and obviously the world will keep spinning. But I kind of feel like I can't stop now. Not because I feel like anybody's waiting for it, but because like it's so part of my schedule and my routine that it's come second nature to me now. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like part of your identity. So my question would also be, you know, you have thousands, not millions of followers, but you have a very dedicated following. And I see these posts, I see the tweets, or I see the Instagram posts, and I see the engagements. My question to you is, in the world, I don't know how often you're going to shows these days. Obviously, a lot of these artists, if they are performing in the area, you know, it's not like a lot of them are local. Have you ever had a moment of recognition, like, hey, I'm grown up rap, like I'm the grown up rap guy. Or even with fans or listeners, because I think, yes, to the broader scope, it's not saying like, hey, you know, I work with Beyonce. That's going to like 9 out of 10 times get a really big reaction. It's perhaps less, but I feel like for the right demographic, if they were to be like, oh, you're the grown up rap guy? Holy shit. I'm just curious. Have you had any of those moments?
Yeah, a couple of times. I usually kind of, because I do, again, because of the kids, I don't get to go to live hip hop shows as much as I used to, but I do kind of like, for example, like I've just booked tickets to go and see Evidence for like the 50th time because he's coming to London in like August. So I think, you know, I do kind of go and see like, you know, my favorite artists. And I usually get talking to someone and they'll go, oh yeah, oh my God, I follow you. So they do know. And I've been doing these kind of like book launch events over the last month or so over the UK where I'm going like doing, you know, Q&As and selling copies of the book. And there's always people there who know me from a grown-up rap. There was one time when it did happen, and this is awesome. Do you remember when Stretch and Bobbito released their documentary, Radio
Yeah, of course.
Changed Lives? So they came over to the UK to promote it, and they did a couple of like Q&A sessions. And then I went to one, and the next day in London, randomly, I just walked by Stretch and Bob, and like they were on their way to like a radio interview. And I said, I had a little chat with them, and I said, oh, I do this grown-up rap. And Stretch was like, oh, girl, you do that? That's you. And I'm like, oh, wow. You know, like Stretch Armstrong has seen my tweets. That's awesome. But no, that's the one time it's happened. So
I also welcome Shawn Setaro back to the show. He is somebody who was on the original Questions Hip Hop Trivia format of the show in 2020. Shawn was covering the Sean Diddy Combs trial throughout the entirety of it for Complex. He was there every single day. And when the trial finally wrapped and the verdict was delivered, I connected with Shawn for a pretty thought-provoking discussion about what the trial coverage was like and what deeper meanings and sort of takeaways we can grasp from what this whole trial meant. This was, you know, a very serious and nuanced conversation, and I really welcomed Shawn's perspective to weigh in on this, you know, sort of once in a lifetime event.
Look, I mean, if I were to look back at the 4 or 5 notebooks I'm staring at here, I could turn to any page and be like, holy shit, like more crazy stuff happened in that trial and more crazy stuff. You know, I heard more insane things. Like I've probably forgotten, you know,
You've been
40
desensitized.
insane things, you know,
Yeah.
that happened, right? Because there was so much. It's more when I think about it, right? It's more moments, right? It's more hearing witnesses recount what they said happened, right? Hearing about the woman who he used to work with who testified under the name Mia, hearing her talk about the time she said he sexually assaulted her so many times that she, after a while, it became a blur and she could recall some incidents only in flashes. Seeing Cassie have to, there was this one period when Cassie was testifying where, you know, so much of the time I'm writing down stuff, right? You have to write by longhand, no electronics allowed, right? So I'm writing stuff down by longhand the whole time as quickly as I can, trying to get as many direct quotes as I can fit without my hand cramping up or falling too far behind in what they're saying so I lose something. So, you know, that takes a lot of concentration. There was this moment in Cassie talking, and she was on the stand for 4 days in total. There was this moment about halfway through where stuff slowed down and she was just shown photos of escorts who were involved in these freak-offs. And it was, oh, I knew that one by this name, I saw him in this city and this city. That was the template, right? Name you knew them by, where you had jurisdictions, or not cities or countries in some cases where you had freak-offs with them. And so just by the nature of that, there's sort of less to write down. So, things sort of slowed down. And that just seeing the photo after photo after photo, not by any means a complete list, but just they went through it, and it took probably 10 full minutes for them to get through the lists of all the men they had there. And that was just extremely affecting, given how she described these things as like, she didn't want to do them, she said, and they lasted for days at a time, and she was on so many drugs and had to do them even with UTIs and all of this stuff, right? So seeing when things slowed down enough that you could get a sense of the scope, that this really did happen hundreds of times in cities all over the country and indeed in places all over the world. That, for some reason, I think because of the change of tempo, almost to use a musical term, that really sticks out to me as a moment I won't soon forget.
I mean, I can't ask you to speak on behalf of any of the people involved, so I can only go to you for your own personal perspective. But what was it like for you? How are you able to deal with hearing day in and day out about some truly disturbing and graphic, happenings and allegations and actions? Well, are you just coming home totally zonked, or do you sort of leave it? Are you able to sort of compartmentalize your brain and your soul really from what you're dealing with in the courtroom to then how you're moving and operating when you get home, which I'm sure also was littered by, if you went on social media, you're probably seeing pictures and all of these reports that other people are doing about this trial.
Yeah, so great question. I don't know if I have a great answer, which is to say, during the period it's going on, by the time I get home, right, just to give listeners an idea, right, I'll get there, spend all day writing stuff down, get occasionally running out during a break to call my editors or frantically type something on Slack about what happened. Afterwards, I would often have to make a short video, here's the big stuff that happened in the trial, and or write a summary of what happened. And then, by the time all that happened and I was on the train home, I'd get home, have enough time to eat something, watch about 23 minutes of television, and then go to sleep so that I could get up at 5 a.m. to start the cycle. This is a very long way of saying there was not a ton of processing time during the actual trial. Right? You hear stuff, you're taking it in, but a part of your brain is sort of focused on oh, did I get the exact words right? Or oh, what's the summary going to be? Or what's the takeaway today? Right? There's just sort of a lot of this that is you doing your job. That said, amongst the reporters, there were plenty of jokes that weren't jokes about how we need to go to group therapy after this. Right? There was everyone was aware that you were hearing very heavy things. The few days after it ended, and I could finally slow down and take a nap, and it was tough. I felt like there was a period of a couple of days where it was hard to get stuff out of my mind. Right? That eventually passed, and but I think it wasn't until after it was over that really, some of the gravity of what I saw and experienced and heard people talk about really had a chance to set in.
I want to give a big shout out to the Beat Junkie Institute of Sound. The Beat Junkies not only have been the dopest DJ crew in hip hop for the longest, They not only have opened their own school in Glendale where they teach students the craft and the history and the techniques of what it takes to be a dope DJ, but they've also been longtime supporters of the questions. We've had so many of the members of the Beat Junkies on the show. We've done events at the Beat Junkie Institute of Sound, and I started co-producing their RPM series with them. It's a listening series where artists gather to talk about seminal albums in their catalog, and the public is invited to join, and we do a listening session and an interview session with the artists talking about the records that we listen to. And so on the Questions Hip Hop podcast this year, we brought some archived episodes from this series to the podcast feed, including episodes with Blue and Exile for their debut album Below the Heavens, Mobb Deep's The Infamous, which featured Big Twins, Big Noid, and House Shoes, among others, talking about just a classic hip-hop record. We also had D Styles from the Beat Junkies talk about his debut, totally avant-garde and really imaginative and creative album, Phantasmagoria. And we also had the Beat Junkies' very own Redman call upon his Visionaries crew to break down the stories and the context and the historical significance of their album, Pangea. And finally, our last original episode that we did on the podcast this year was another Making Illmatic episode. With so much attention and focus and chatter about the Clipse due to them releasing their long-awaited new album this year, we tapped our friend and MC Cap Kallous to do a Making Illmatic on the Clipse debut album, Lord Willin. Pharrell and Chad Hugo are some of the greatest hip-hop producers of all time. And like you cannot deny it. That they may not get thrown into the conversation because they're so different from all of the other greats. They're, you know, it feels weird. They're almost in a different category than a DJ Premier or, you know, a RZA or you know, a Pete Rock. But this is just like a really innovative, interesting take on a beat. And even like though there is the drums, and it is primarily just drums, and it is even just stock drum sounds in the Triton keyboard, I want to say. You know, it's not like they did any kind of crazy thing. They just took a preset that was in the keyboard and used it to make a beat. But even that little like melodic, you know, in the video, it's Pharrell tapping his cheek. It just was crazy. And to remembering seeing the video for this, it reminds me, I was just talking to somebody the other day about the first time that I saw the music video for Juvenile's Ha. And it was like, what is this? Like, this seems like it's another planet. I've never seen this before. Like, that's how I felt in seeing this video. It was, the music is so stark that it really makes you pay attention to the MCs. And then in the case of the music video, just the visuals that they're showing. And it was just such a gripping moment. And I can't hear this. Regardless of, again, I've already kind of revealed that I don't necessarily revere Clipse as MCs, although I do think that they are very good, but they don't occupy a lot of real estate in my head. But to me, this is just as much a Pharrell song as it is anybody else. And, you know, the first NERD album came out, I think, the year prior or like around this time, the In Search Of record. And that album was super, super important in my life. And it was just hearing a song like this kind of, it's good every time somebody comes along who clearly understands the rules, but defiantly breaks the rules and defiantly sort of goes against the grain. And Grinding is that. I love this. It's a classic to me. So absolutely, it's a keep.
Kallous?
I agree. It's one of those ones. It's kind of like a definitive like rap song. Like as far as like the production is insane. It's like Sean said, there's so much has been said about the song, so I don't want to be like drawn out about it. But like, yeah, it's obviously a keep to me. You know, like production, something that we'd never heard before, and like I do think that without the video. And honestly, even without Pharrell speaking on the beginning of this song, it may not have been as big. You know what I mean? Like, yes, like the beat is stupid, but would it have traveled and gotten as much distance without Pharrell just even doing that iconic like intro on the beginning of that song? And I do think that like there's, you know, one other single where he does that on, which is probably their second single, and it's like this is so intentional. Like, and I love like how like it's like, yo, like not only do I have this beat that like I could really put Jay-Z or Beanie Siegel or any of these other people that I'm like, you know, shooting fire stuff to around the 2000s, and anyone's gonna snap on this beat. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter, but I'm gonna pick these two people from my home state, from where I'm from, that I've known forever, and I'm gonna introduce the world to you, like these two people, and like really let them shine because I believe in them. And like he really put like, I don't think he put his career on the line because Pharrell's going to be Pharrell whether this song blew up or not, but he put everything that he could do to promote his homies into this song, and it worked. And I think that's dope.
And it's also dope too because Clipse had put out an album on Elektra and they got dropped. You know, they had
got
come
shelved,
out,
right?
It got shelved and they got dropped from the label. So like it must have been a really important thing for them all personally that one of their own did blow up, you know, with the Neptunes blowing up, and then they didn't, that they did look out and that they did prop them back up, because to be dropped from the label and to have your album shelved is such a devastating thing. There was like a song, I think it was called The Funeral, that was like their single that came out like 98 or 99. Yeah, and like it didn't really go, and then they were just like, well, the Clipse is not a thing. So, you know, it's just cool. You like to see it, you know, where people bring the homies along for the ride. And it never felt like Clipse were like the weed carriers of the crew. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm on, and like, you know, these are the little homies. Like they earned their spot. It was deserved for them to get a second chance.
Yeah, I think it's obviously it's a keep. I have a lot more appreciation for this song in 2025 than I did in 2002. But you know, a big part of this was just, and you know, I think that's what's really dope about the pod that we do and the way that we talk about music, because so much of this is in relation to where you were and what you were doing and what was where your life was at when these things happened. And then to be able to talk about, you know, the music from the perspective of where I was, and then be able to talk about music from the perspective of where you're at is a really fun dichotomy, because back in 2002, my brain wasn't primed for this shit. And what made it worse was that everybody around me thought it was the greatest shit ever. And I was just like, yo, fuck all you dudes. Like, y'all don't know shit. And then I'm wilding. I'm still saying, like, I look at 2001 and 2002 Midas, and I laugh at that guy, because I was just like, what? Have you heard the new Cannabis album, the Mike Club Curriculum? Like, like shit that was just like, what are you fucking talking about, bro? Like,
that old digging your heels in the sand resistance.
Yeah, bro, just being extra for no fucking reason. Just like, yo, like, nah, man, it's not that, it's this. Like, you know, like just being contrarian for contrarian purposes in most cases, I think. So, like, even just the ability to be open to it. The first time that I caught myself doing that, like for real, like where you had to like catch yourself. It's almost like when somebody makes a when you've said like, yo, I don't eat tuna fish, bro. I don't eat tuna fish. Like, I don't fuck with tuna fish at all. And then like, it's really because you had one experience with tuna fish and it didn't work that time. But then, you know, one day somebody's like, yo, but try this tuna fish though. Like, just try it. And then you try it and you're like, man, this is really good. But you're so feet dug in the sand that you're like, this shit trash too, bro. Like, I hate it. And then like you go into your own room and you're like, fuck, that was delicious. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of that's where I was at with like, there were a lot of things that I was like, oh shit. But there was a lot of things that rolled that way. Dipset was that for me. Like, I was outside. Yo, man, you know, like, yo, this dirty South New York music doesn't work for me. But like, every time I'd hear something, I'd be like, this is kind of fire though. Like, what? Like, but I couldn't say that outside because I was locked into what I was locked into. I feel like with grinding, there's a little bit of that too. Like I just forced myself to be anti this song because I was just like, you know, in that space. But listening to it, even just now, Sean, while you were playing it, it's like it's dumb hard. You know what I'm saying? It's dumb hard. Like it's so creative. It's so counter whatever was not just whatever was happening. It's counter whatever's happened. So you know what I mean? It was crazy.
So that's everything that took place on the public version of the podcast this year. But if you're a member of the Patreon, you know that this really just scratches the surface in terms of the episodes and bonus materials that were being put out this year for all the fans of the Questions Hip Hop podcast. First of all, full episodes. A lot of these episodes that I mentioned earlier, only a part of the episode was published publicly. Full episodes of the Making Illmatics for the Muddy Waters 2 album, Cold Vein, and It Was Written are available exclusively for Patreon members. Speaking of exclusives, there's a lot of bonus episodes and bonus materials from the public episodes that made it exclusively behind the Patreon feed. That's more from the Marcberg episode, more of the 1995 draft. I did an episode called The Quazzies, in which I sort of talked about the other side of the Questions 200 episode run. The public version got the best moments. The Quazzies talked about the most awkward and maybe challenging moments of the Questions throughout its 200 episode run, up to that point anyway. There was also more material from the Lord Willin Making Illmatic episode. We also offered bonus Between Myself and Optics episode talking about the retirement of Little Brother, who embarked on their final tour in 2025. Also gave thoughts on the Mass Appeal run and Nas's latest album, Light Years, with DJ Premier. And also gave a sneak peek of a new book project that I'm working on. And this was a deep audio essay about the Wu-Tang Clan. I also had an exclusive limited series on the Patreon called Industry Rule number 4080. These are deep dive monologue topics onto some, I think, pretty interesting things in my life and my career. Everything from the surprisingly numerous ways that I have connections and sort of deep lineage. Well, I don't want to say lineage, but interesting ways that my career has intersected with Bone Thugs and Harmony. I talk about the show Drop the Mic that I was a producer on that was a very fascinating and funny and weird television show that sort of saw the intersection of comedy and hip hop. It was hosted by Method Man. And yeah, this was a very interesting episode. If you haven't heard it, you might want to check it out on the Patreon. I also talked about my LA origin story and the way in which I somehow made it onto Dr. Dre's Compton album. That's right. I'm a credited player on the Compton album, and I talk all about that story behind the Patreon. I also got really into doing mixes in 2025 on the Patreon. And if you join or have been a member, you'll see that I did mixes, including a best of 2025 mix, my mix of the 100 best hip hop albums by my own selection. This was something that was all ablaze on the internet as people debated over lists this year. Also did a D'Angelo tribute and a rarities mix to the great, great artist who we lost this year. There's a Little Brothers rarity mix, which also sort of coincided with my thoughts and detailing of the history and significance of Little Brother as they announced their farewell this year. Also did a mix of Merce and his music. Again, this is an artist who announced his final album and final tour this year. Merce is somebody who I've worked with in many capacities over the years, including musically and having him on the podcast a couple times. And of course, I did a 2005 draft mix. We were talking about 2005 for so long on that episode. Really got me in the headspace of, 2005 had some really interesting and cool musical moments. Let's put it in a mix. And so that was basically the bird's eye view of what 2025 was all about on the Questions Hip Hop podcast this year. Again, I want to shout out and thank everybody who subscribed to the YouTube channel, everybody who subscribed and listens to and leaves a comment and review on the podcast, everybody who has become a member of the Questions Hip Hop Patreon. Not only does your support help me do this show, but it also puts you in a community of like-minded hip-hop fans and aficionados. And again, you get a lot of bonus stuff that you can't get anywhere else. So I want to thank you for rocking with me. Like I said, the year has had a bit of a hiatus at the end of 2025, but we're gearing up for more episodes, more new things, and a lot more hip-hop discussion in 2026. So I will see you next year. Happy holidays. Thank you. Peace.